Hey, my name is Josh. I'm 30 years old. Born and raised in a small town in Indiana. I work full-time at a local auto repair shop. Nothing fancy, just a regular mechanic's life. Grease under the fingernails, long days on my feet, and a paycheck that keeps the lights on. I live in a quiet, little neighborhood where every house looks the same. White fences, neatly trimmed lawns. The kind of place that looks perfect from the outside. I live with my wife Kelly. We've been married for 4 years, but lately it feels like we've been surviving. Not living, no kids. I wanted them, she kept saying. Not yet, always waiting for some perfect future moment that never came. At first I thought we just needed time. But time's passed. And now everything between us is tight. Cold like a rubber band stretched too far. Kelly, she's not the same woman I married. Or maybe she is, and I just didn't want to see it back then. Now everything I do is wrong. If I work late, I'm avoiding her. If I come home early, she asks why. We're still broke, I can't win. She's sharp with her words, always finding ways to make me feel small. And lately there have been these signs. Her phone lighting up at night, her disappearing for hours on weekends. A buddy of mine swore he saw her talking to some guy outside a coffee shop, too close to be just talking. I try to be patient, I try to believe it's just stress, but it's eating at me. I feel like I'm being erased a little every day. And then there's Lauren. She lives directly across the street. A beautiful woman in her early 40s, divorced. No kids, always well put together. The kind of calm presence you notice, without her even saying a word. I don't know how it started. Maybe with a wave across the lawn. Or when she brought over muffins after we moved in. But somehow over the years, she became the only person I can talk to. We've never crossed any lines. It's not like that, she's just kind. When I talk, she listens. She doesn't interrupt, she doesn't roll her eyes. I think she just gets what it feels like to be invisible in your own home. I'd had a bad argument with Kelly. She yelled at me because I hadn't fixed a stupid drawer in the kitchen. Then she left the house for hours, without saying where she was going. I ended up outside, sitting on the tailgate of my truck, drinking a flat beer, and staring at the same spot on the driveway for who knows how long. That's when I saw Lauren crossing the street. She came over with her usual quiet smile and said, "Rough day?" I just nodded. "I made coffee," she said. "Come have some," so I followed her across the road. Her house always smelled like cinnamon and something warm. We sat at her kitchen table. The same spot we'd sat 100 times before. She poured me a cup, didn't ask for details. Just waited. I talked about Kelly. About feeling stuck. About wondering if it was all my fault. She listened as always. She never offered advice unless I asked. That's what I liked about her. She didn't tell me what to do. She let me figure it out myself. Then something changed. I was in my garage trying to get a chainsaw to start. One of those things I kept meaning to fix but never did. When I heard footsteps on the driveway, I turned around. It was Lauren. She was wearing a simple navy blue blouse and jeans. No makeup, hair tied up. Still, she looked stunning in a way that wasn't trying to be. She smiled gently and said, "Hey. Sorry to bother you." "Not a bother." I said, "What's up?" She looked at me, and there was something in her eyes. Not flirtation, not sadness. Just directness, like she had made a decision. "I need a man's help," she said. Holding my gaze, I felt my throat tighten. "Oh," I managed to ask, trying to play it cool. "There's a heavy box in my garage," she added quickly. I tried to move it myself. "But it's stubborn." "Sure," I said. "Just give me a second." We walked to her garage. The box wasn't anything dramatic, just full of books. But yeah, it was heavy. I moved it to a shelf for her. She thanked me with a smile, and then just, like always, said coffee. We sat at the same table again. She poured 2 cups and slid mine over. For a few minutes we didn't say anything. It wasn't awkward, it was just still. And somewhere in that stillness, a thought came to me. What if this was what life was supposed to feel like? What if home wasn't about walls and contracts, but about peace? But I said nothing. I just sipped the coffee. It tasted different. Maybe it always did, or maybe I was just finally tasting it for real. The week after that Sunday passed slowly. Work at the shop was steady. Oil changes, brake jobs, a stubborn transmission or two. But my mind was somewhere else. Not on Lauren exactly, but maybe on the idea of her. On the silence in her house, on how easy it was to just sit across from her and breathe like a human being again. Back at home, things with Kelly were getting worse. She'd barely looked at me all week. When she did, it was only to make some comment. About the trash I forgot to take out, about the dishes not being done, about how other husbands probably make more money. I didn't even answer anymore. I just nodded or walked away. We barely touched, barely spoke. I'd lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell happened to us, or if we had ever really been a we in the first place. I came home a little early. I told the guys I had plans, which wasn't really true, I just didn't want to be there. But when I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something. Kelly's car was gone, but she hadn't said anything about going out. I went inside, no note, no message, no idea where she was, just silence. I opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat on the porch. I looked across the street. Lauren's curtains were open, lights on, that soft glow in the window. It always made her place feel like a warm cabin in the woods, even though it was just another house like mine. I wasn't planning on doing anything, but then I saw her come out to water the plants on her front steps. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Hey, stranger," she said, walking across the street without hesitation. "You look like you could use a break." She said something like that. I replied, rubbing the back of my neck. "You busy right now?" "No," she said, then "Come on. You're not getting out of coffee today." I followed her again, same path. Same house, same scent, cinnamon, and something that reminded me of fall. Even though it was spring this time. She didn't go straight to the kitchen. She paused in the living room. I was about to put on something stupid on Netflix. She said, "You okay with that?" "Sure," I said, settling onto her couch. She disappeared into the kitchen and came back with 2 mugs. No words for a while, just the sound of a romantic comedy in the background. The occasional clink of her spoon against the mug, and the quiet. Eventually she muted the TV. "Bad week?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "She barely talks to me now. Or when she does, it's just to say I'm not doing enough. She thinks I'm spending too much time avoiding her." Lauren didn't say anything, she just waited. "I'm not cheating," I said quietly. "But I've thought about what it would be like to be with someone else, and that makes me feel like I already have." "That's not cheating, Josh," she said. "That's just loneliness talking." I looked over at her. She was sitting cross-legged, holding her mug with both hands, her eyes soft but steady on mine. "She used to smile when I came home," I said. "Now she looks at me like I'm just in the way." "I'm sorry," Lauren said. "No one deserves to feel that." "I don't want to leave her," I admitted. "But I don't know what I'm staying for." There was a long pause. I felt like I'd said too much. Like maybe this was the moment where Lauren would gently end the conversation and send me home instead. She stood up, walked over to the window, and slowly pulled the curtain shut. The room dimmed, not dark, but private. Then she turned and looked at me again. That same calm expression, but there was something deeper now, heavier. Sadder, maybe. "You know," she said softly, "when I was married, I used to look at my husband and wish he'd just say one real thing to me. Just one, but he never did. He talked, sure, about bills, about the lawn, about his job, but never about what he felt. Not once. I would have given anything to hear him say what you just said." I didn't know what to say back. So I just looked at her and she looked at me. No smiles, just stillness. Then she said, "Want to help me move another box?" I blinked. "Sure," I said, almost laughing, grateful for the shift in tone. We went to her garage. This time it was a ball of old holiday decorations. We worked together, her handing me smaller, thin things to stack me, lifting the heavier bins on the shelves. Nothing fancy, just movement. Just 2 people doing a simple task in quiet rhythm. Afterwards she wiped her hands on a rag and said, "Thanks anytime," I said. We walked back inside. She handed me another cup of coffee, and then she said something I'll never forget. "You know, Josh, some people bring out the worst in us, and some people bring out the best. You need to decide who you are when you're with her. And who you are when you're here. I stared at the coffee and in my hands. I didn't answer, I didn't need to. She was right, and I already knew the answer. The next few days felt like I was living in two different worlds. At work, things were normal, or at least easy to pretend they were. I threw myself into repairs, spent extra time organizing the back room, stayed late even when there was nothing left to do. But every time I stopped moving, my thoughts went back to what Lauren said. You need to decide who you are when you're with her. And who you are when you're here. I knew the answer, I just didn't want to admit it. At home I was quiet, tense like I was tiptoeing through a minefield. With Lauren, I could speak, I could breathe. Kelly didn't notice the shift, or if she did, she didn't mention it. She was in her own world, she came and went without explanation, her phone glued to her hand. She laughed at texts she wouldn't show me. And the distance between us, it wasn't just emotional anymore. She slept with her back to me every night. Pulled the blankets tight like a barrier. Kelly walked in the door, no message, no call, before she dropped her purse on the counter and said, "What, you're still up?" "I was waiting," I said. "You didn't say where you were." "Ouch," she replied, taking off her heels. "I don't have to report to you every second, Josh. I didn't say that, I just—" "Never mind," she gave me a look like I was being dramatic. Like I was a problem again. "I was with coworkers, Josh. Stop making everything a thing." I didn't say anything. I just nodded and went back to the couch. She walked upstairs without another word. The next day, I didn't go to work. I told my boss I needed a mental health day. He didn't ask questions. I think he knew better than to pry. I spent the morning cleaning the garage, the one space I still felt like I owned. By noon, I sat on the porch, sweating. Drained not from the heat, from everything, from trying to pretend this marriage still had bones, under all the rot, and then I saw Lauren. She was watering the front bushes again. Her rhythm, slow, relaxed, like she didn't have to be anywhere. When she looked up and saw me, she smiled, but this time it was smaller. Like she already knew I was in a place I couldn't explain with words. She crossed the street without saying anything, and stood at the edge of my driveway. "You want to come over?" she asked gently. I didn't even answer, I just stood up and walked with her. At her house, I dropped onto the couch like my body had given up. She brought me water instead of coffee, and we sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I spoke. "I think she's seeing someone." Lauren didn't react, she just waited. She came home last night late. Said it was a coworker, but she was different. She laughed at a text she had that glow. People get when they're around someone. Who actually gives a damn? Still, Lauren didn't interrupt, just listened. I wanted to scream. I continued, not because she's with someone, but because she's never been that version of herself. With me, not in years. There was pain in my voice. I could feel it, I didn't try to hide it anymore. And the worst part, I said, I wasn't even surprised. It didn't shock me, it just made everything clear. Lauren leaned back, arms crossed gently over her chest. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't want to blow up, I don't want to yell. I don't have the energy, I just want it to be over." We sat like that for a long time. Kelly texted me out with the girls. "Don't wait up, no hard emo. Number apology for the last few nights. Just cold, distant words on a screen." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in a while. I went to bed early, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there, eyes on the ceiling, waiting for the sound of her return. I heard the engine of a car outside. I got up, walked quietly to the window, pulled the curtain just an inch, and there it was, Kelly stepping out of a dark SUV. The headlights still on, a man younger than me. Maybe mid-20s, walked around to her side. They talked for a second, and then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a polite goodbye, not a cheek peck. A kiss. She looked around after, probably thinking no one was watching, then walked up to the door, slipped her keys in quietly, and came in. I was already sitting on the couch, the TV off, the light dim. She froze when she saw me. "You're awake?" she asked, startled. "Yeah," I said calmly. She blinked. "What are you doing?" "Waiting for you to tell me who that guy is." She paused. "He's just a friend." A coworker, he gave me a ride and a kiss. I said that wasn't Josh. You're overreacting. It wasn't like that. I stood up, not angry. Not shouting, just done. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Her eyes widen. What? You're leaving this house. I'm not leaving this house, I said without drama. Without games, this house is mine, and I'm done pretending we still have something. She exploded then, like I knew she would accuse me of giving up, of being cold, of never loving her. Said I was a coward, a loser, that I never made her feel special. I let her say it all. I didn't interrupt. I just listened, and when she was done, I said I tried. You know I did, you just didn't care. I went upstairs. I heard her downstairs pacing. Talking to herself, maybe packing. By morning, most of her clothes were gone. By noon, the same SUV pulled into our driveway, and she left. No goodbye. I watched the car disappear down the street and closed the door behind her. I just stood there alone, in the house that suddenly felt both empty and free. The silence in the house hit different. The day after Kelly left, it wasn't the kind of silence that made you anxious or angry. It was quiet, like a storm had passed, and all that was left were pieces. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, just listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the old wall clock. I should have felt relief. I should have felt proud, or at least justified. Instead, I just felt hollow. 4 years of trying to make something work that was never meant to. 4 years of fighting for someone who'd already let go. And when it finally ended, it felt less like freedom and more like collapse. I went to work that Monday. The guys didn't ask questions. A couple of them had been through divorces. One of them just patted me on the back when I walked in. That was enough, but the hard part wasn't the paperwork or telling mutual friends. It was coming home at night, to a house that felt like a museum. Her things were gone, the shoes by the door, the lotion bottle on the nightstand, the jacket always thrown over the back of the couch. And yet, I still caught myself expecting to hear the door slam, or the sound of her voice upstairs, complaining about something. I didn't call anyone, didn't tell my mom, old friends, or anyone from her side. I didn't want pity, I didn't want advice. I just wanted space. A few days later, I saw Lauren again. She was walking to her mailbox as I pulled into the driveway. I got out of the truck and stood there for a second, unsure if I should wave or just go inside. She saw me, paused, and smiled. Hey, she called out. Walking over, hey. I said back. I tried to sound casual, but my voice cracked a little. You okay? I nodded. She's gone. Lauren didn't ask for details. She didn't make a face or gasp or say, I'm so sorry. She just stepped forward and gave me a hug. The kind of hug that wasn't too long or too emotional. Just enough to remind you that someone saw you. We stood like that for a second before she pulled back. You hungry? She asked. I shrugged. I could eat. Come on, I made too much lasagna. She said it wasn't a big thing. Just dinner at her place, but something about it felt grounding. She didn't ask me to talk. She didn't prod. We ate. Talked about nothing, her struggling rosebush, my busted radiator at work, some funny video she saw online. For the first time in weeks, I laughed without faking it. After dinner, we sat on her porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft oranges and blues. The breeze was light. The air smelled like freshly cut grass. Do you feel lighter? She asked. I feel raw, I said. Like everything just got ripped open. That's normal, she said softly. You spent years building a life around someone. Now the shell's broken. Doesn't mean what's underneath is bad. Just means it finally has air. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was wearing a light sweater and jeans. Her hair down, no makeup. She looked peaceful and beautiful. I hadn't really thought of her that way before. Maybe I had, but I buried it out of guilt. Out of loyalty to someone who wasn't loyal to me. But now I didn't feel guilt. I felt something else. Something unfamiliar but good. Thank you, I said, for everything, for just being here. You don't owe me thanks, she said. I like having you around. We sat a while longer in silence. At one point, our hands were resting close on the bench between us, and I swear her fingers brushed mine lightly. Like a test, but I didn't move away. Neither did she eventually. I stood up. I should go early morning tomorrow. She nodded. You know where the coffee is, if you ever need it. I smiled. I know. I walked home and sat on my own porch for a bit. Just thinking. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Over the next few weeks, Lauren and I saw more of each other. Sometimes just quick chats in the yard. Sometimes coffee, sometimes dinner. She never pushed, never acted different. But the way she looked at me, it changed, softer, closer. One Sunday morning, I woke up early and decided to do something spontaneous. I texted her, "Are you free tonight?" "I owe you dinner," she replied within a minute. "Pick me up at 7 tomorrow. I like surprises." I cleaned in the truck, shaved, put on my nicest shirt, which still wasn't that nice, but it smelled good. We drove to a quiet little place outside town. A family-run spot, with outdoor seating and live guitar music. The food was simple, the mood was light. After dessert, we walked a little through the town square, and I found myself reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away. She held it like it was something we'd always done. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't rush anything. But we knew something had shifted. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what I lost. I was thinking about what I might finally be finding. It's been just over a year since Kelly left. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Sometimes, like yesterday, a lot's changed. Not all at once, but gradually, in the way real life actually works. The house doesn't feel empty anymore. Not because someone moved in, or because I filled it with noise, but because the weight that lived in the walls, the tension, the arguing, the silent treatments, all of that left with ways. And what stayed behind was space. Space for something better. Lauren and I, we didn't rush anything after that dinner. We kept things simple. A few more evenings spent together. Some walks, a couple of Sunday mornings on our porch, drinking coffee with no makeup, no pressure, no pretending. We were just two people figuring out what came next. Maybe 2 months after our first official date, we kissed. It was gentle, quiet. No drama, no music swelling in the background. Just a natural ending to a conversation, where she said she hadn't laughed so much in years, and I said I hadn't felt this calm since I was a kid. We didn't make promises. We didn't define anything right away. It wasn't about declaring love after a hard divorce. It was about healing both of us. She'd been through her own kind of quiet heartbreak. Years ago, a husband who drifted, who stopped noticing her, who eventually left without really leaving. We bonded over the fact that love, if it's not nurtured, dies with its eyes open by winter. She was staying over a few nights a week. By spring she moved in, not because we needed to, but because we wanted to. It just made sense. Her things started showing up in the kitchen drawers, on the bathroom shelves. The house smelled different, warmer. She played music when she cooked. She talked to the plants. She remembered the names of my coworkers, even the ones I didn't like. She made the space feel lived in, but never crowded. And me, I changed it. I stopped walking on eggshells. I stopped apologizing for being tired after work. I started talking more, really talking. I didn't realize how much I'd been holding in, until I was with someone who actually wanted to hear it. One night we sat on the back porch after a long day. She was wrapped in one of my hoodies, sipping her tea. The sun was going down, the neighborhood was quiet, and she looked over at me and said, "You look lighter." I nodded. "I feel lighter." We didn't talk much more that night. We didn't need to, but something changed. The next morning we were having breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee. Lauren was reading something on her phone, casually scrolling, when she said, "This might sound crazy, but I've been thinking." She paused, looked up at me. "I'd still like to have a child. If you ever wanted to try." "I'm not saying now, just someday. I don't want to rule it out." I was quiet for a moment, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I felt something tighten in my chest. "In the best possible way, I do." I said, "I really do." We didn't have the full conversation right then and there, but over the weeks that followed, we talked more seriously about timing, about health, about what it would look like. She was 43 by then, I was 31. Not the youngest couple thinking about starting over, but we weren't afraid by the time summer came. She was pregnant the day we found out. She cried, not from fear or stress, from something else, relief. Maybe hope, she kept saying. I didn't think I'd ever get a second chance. And all I could say was, me neither. Our life now isn't some perfect movie. We still argue sometimes about dumb stuff, like where the keys went or how to load the dishwasher. But it's real, it's honest. And at the end of the day, I come home to someone who wants to understand me. Not fix me, not fight me. Not tear me down, just see me. I came home from work and found her in the backyard. Barefoot, talking to our plants. Again, her belly starting to show now. She looked up, smiled and waved. And I stood there for a second, holding my keys, just watching her. That's when it hit me. The woman I used to wake up next to made me feel like I was always wrong. The woman I wake up next to now makes me feel like I'm finally home. I didn't go looking for this. I didn't expect it. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. I was just trying to survive. And somehow in the middle of that survival, I found peace, the kind of peace I didn't even know I needed. The story of Josh and Lauren offers a deeply emotional life lesson about the courage to rediscover oneself amid heartbreak and the transformative power of genuine connection. Josh's journey from a strained marriage, marked by emotional neglect, to finding solace in Lauren's quiet understanding, teaches us that true healing begins when we choose to prioritize our own peace over clinging to broken relationships. His decision to confront Kelly's infidelity and pursue divorce reflects the strength required to let go of a toxic past, while Lauren's patient presence shows how simple acts of kindness can rebuild someone's sense of worth. Their evolving bond, rooted in mutual respect and shared vulnerability, reminds us that love doesn't always demand grand gestures, but thrives in moments of honest companionship. Josh's eventual embrace of a new life with Lauren, including their shared hope for a child, underscores the beauty of second chances. When we allow ourselves to move forward, this narrative is a heartfelt call to listen to our inner truths, seek relationships that uplift us, and trust that even after loss, life can offer unexpected paths to joy. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever found strength in letting go of a painful past? Your stories inspire and connect our community. If this tale moved you, to hit that like button, subscribe and ring the notification bell to join our journey of raw, emotional storytelling. Let's keep exploring life's profound lessons together.